Welcome back, amigos. Thank you for watching another edition of Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. I've just got one project finished up and posted on the old YouTube channel, and now it's time to start the next. I did a video wrapping up last year and kind of predicting this year's activity. And after I finished the 1/25th scale Tamiya Tiger, I was going to move on to the new tool Tamiya Easy 8 Sherman. However, I have opted to delay that, and instead, thanks to inspiration from one of the other YouTube channel modelers, I'm going to build this. This is the Monogram Panzer IV in 1/32 scale. This kit is very close to the kits that got me involved with armor modeling back in the mid-late 70s. Now obviously, you know, this one is a recent packaging of it, but the molds are all the same. It's all the same old tooling, so it'll be interesting to see what's in here. And I'm going to do a review, an actual review. It'll be brief because there's not a whole lot to this kit, but I'm going to do a review of this kit since I haven't been able to find a YouTube video that does a review of this kit. So let's go ahead and open this thing up and see what's inside, and I will give some commentary on my memories from the kit of the past that I did. Okay, so we got the box here. Instructions, very basic, same art as what's on the cover, except with a couple more tanks. This is labeled Revell. I guess Revell and Monogram are all one company now, or Revell bought Monogram's molds or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, this is very basic in nature. Color callouts are just by color. They don't give any kind of reference numbers to any brands of paint or anything like that. You know, the typical stuff down here showing what's what. An interesting thing here is they have labeled what each part number is. For example, part number 1 is lower hull. Part number 2, left road wheel axles. You know, it's all listed out. That's kind of interesting. And it looks like there's 115 parts in this kit. 115. That's not very many. So here's the actual instructions themselves. Again, very basic. Now, oddly enough, as I said, I built many of these Armor Series kits back in the 70s. Now, I did not do the Panzer IV. That one was never available for some reason, or I just missed it in the local store where I bought my stuff. But I did do the Wirbelwind, whatever, which is based off of the Panzer IV chassis, and it was the quad anti-aircraft guns in the hex-shaped, hexagon or octagon, I can't remember which it was, shaped turret. That was one of them that I built. And I also built the Stug 4, which the hull on all of those vehicles were identically the same, or identical. Just the top part, like different turret between this Panzer IV and the Wirbelwind. And the Stug had a different superstructure on top since it was an assault gun. And oddly enough, I still have the instructions from that Stug from many years ago. Copyright on this thing, 1973. As you can see, it's quite yellowed and old, but I have kept this all these years. But I'm kind of glad I did, because we can, now this is the big fold out kind of job. Okay, but you can get a good idea of the difference in the instructions from then now compared to then. For example, these two steps here, they are labeled step 1, but they're kind of actually step 1 entails a few different parts, but it's virtually the same. Install assembly of the bogies and attaching them to the hull. Same exact thing right there. Whereas we have symbols here, do not cement that, but cement that. It actually gives it in verbiage right here. Apply cement here only. Do not get cement on axle. Assemble 4 left bogies, slip inner bogie wheels 4 onto axles on left bogie 2. So it's kind of interesting to see the difference. Obviously these kind of instructions are more for an international market, whereas these were, I guess, probably more for the American market. But you know, it's kind of interesting to look at it and you know, see the difference. Anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. But back to the current instructions. You know, very, very basic. Not a whole lot going on here. You have one whole window dedicated to just gluing the 2 halves of the drive sprockets together. Then, you know, you've got the hull parts, the wheels, the extra tracks, the track holder, the headlight, which is weird because it comes in 2 halves. Don't know if you can see that very well, but that's just kind of a weird way of doing it. But you know, that's the way they did it back then, I guess. But anyway, so that's the instructions. Not a whole lot of detail going on the hull. Interestingly, a lot of these older kits would have molded on handles, whereas this one has actual handles that you glue on, loop type handles. So that's kind of neat. You know, the hull's done, shows you the position of all the tools, and then the tracks. Then you move on to the side skirts and the turret. So really super basic, and you know, honestly, it shouldn't take that long to build this thing. Then on the back, it gives the 2 color schemes. We have one Panzerkampfwagen Mark IV Ausf H, 12th SS Panzer Division, Normandy, 1944, and then you have 35th Panzer Regiment of the 4th Panzer Division, Bobruisk, December 1943. With a name like that, I'm sure that's Russian Front, Eastern Front. But I'm going to be doing this scheme right here. It breaks down the color call-outs and you know, what colors go where, and then very basic illustration, and then where all of the decals go. So that's the one I'm going to do right there. 12th SS Panzer Division, Normandy, 1944. So that's the instructions. Now this kit, I've opened the box initially, but I have not actually opened the plastic bags. So first, let's take a look at the tracks, and then we'll move on to opening the bags and seeing what's in there. So let me get this stuff together here, and I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. Here are the tracks, commonly referred to as rubber band tracks, but they're not actually rubber, they're vinyl, and these appear to be very, very similar to the tracks that came in those kits so long ago. However, the way they connect, I believe, is different. And it doesn't actually show on the instructions here the way you're supposed to connect these tracks. Now, if I remember correctly, on the old one, there were 2 kind of flat, rounded end pegs that fit through holes in the other end. These are 4 holes and 4 small pins. Okay, so these are a little bit different, but other than that, these tracks look awfully close to the way they were way back when. Excuse me. So anyway, not a whole lot of detail, especially on the inside. It's perfectly smooth, no link detail. The outside link detail is not bad. You know, obviously it's not the best, but you know, for an old kit, it's not too bad. So those will be interesting. So let's take there's only 2 bags of sprues. So let's open this one first and see what we got. Okay, so we have the side skirts, jerry cans, and the barrel, which I did not realize, but that is a 1-piece barrel, except for the muzzle brake. That is a solid barrel. I thought they came in 2 pieces like the Monogram M4 Sherman Screaming Mimi that I built a few years ago when I got back in the hobby. So that's kind of nice. And it's straight. It's not warped or anything. So shouldn't be too hard to clean up. The mold, the seam line there is not bad at all. That'll be easy to clean up actually. Then we got the side skirts. And an interesting thing about this kit is the fact that it gives you damaged portions of the Scherzen, which is kind of nice. You can just choose 2 segments, cut them out, and then replace them with these damaged portions. Now I remember I did that back whenever I built that Stug, and it's kind of neat looking, you know, battle damage. It's kind of cool actually, not too bad. But you're gonna add some interest, and I'm gonna do that on this kit. The jerry cans, they look okay. There's a bit of flash going on the jerry cans, but you know, it's an old kit, so that's to be expected. Then we have the next sprue, which is the upper hull front hull machine gun ball mount, jack block, which the jack block, don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's got some pretty nice little wood grain detail going on there, so if I weather it properly, it may turn out okay. Hatches, driver and radio operator's hatch. Vision ports for the turret, I'm sure. Nope, for the side of the hull. So, not too bad. There's actually weld seams going on right here. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. Let's see if it makes it easier to see some of this detail. Yeah, got some weld detail going on there, which is not bad. Here on the sides. So I didn't remember that, so that's kind of nice. There's not really any texture, so to speak, but you know, it's all right. So then we have the next bag here, which is quite a bit fuller. Okay, so we have the lower hull. I'm going to back the lower hull here. You can see the lower hull detail there. Actually, not too bad considering this kit. I mean, it's pretty good. It's got some nice bolt detail. It's sharp. Spring detail right here on the fender, so that's not too shabby. made in USA. Northbrook, Illinois sticker in there. That's different. It's got the diamond plate detail on the fenders. The brackets for the shirts and seem to be molded onto the fenders. There's a little bit of flash going on that'll have to be cleaned up, but you know, not bad. But here's the interesting part. I don't know if you can see it there, but that there says Revell Incorporated 1970. 1970 USA. So this kit is actually a little bit older than I thought. The thickness of the fenders, again, considering the kit, is not too bad. Not very much going on as far as detail on the fender hinges. It's just basically some flat pieces that are supposed to simulate hinges, but not bad. Okay, then the next sprue is the turret, and again, not too bad. Well detail going on. It's solid in the sides where the hatches go, so there's no open door possibility there. The gun mantlet, the main gun mantlet, is molded in two pieces. Still be a little bit of seam work to work on there. Here are the hatches. Not much on detail on those hatches. There's no grab handles or anything like that on it. The commander's cupola, not too bad. Not too bad. More mantlet detail to go on the front of the turret, but the turret, I'm kind of stoked. It looks pretty good, especially the top of it. What detail there is nice and sharp. It's not all rounded and smooth like some older kits. I'm going to put a piece of paper down here. Maybe it'll help with visibility. Okay, then we have the bottom of the turret, and then the skirts that go around the turret. A little bit of flash. I got some weird shadows going on here, people, sorry. But a little bit of flash going on right there. Again, not too bad. Let's try that. Oh man. All the brackets, again, considering how old this is, they're kind of thick. They're obviously thick, but they're pretty crisp, so that won't be too bad. And then we have the drive sprockets. The drive sprockets actually look pretty nice. Pretty crisp detail going on there. These are all the parts for the wheels that allows you snap those on there and allows the wheels to turn. Idler wheels. The suspension parts. You know, there's some pretty gnarly looking. Let's see if we can see that. Some pretty gnarly looking sink marks in the sides of that. Good Lord. It's pretty gnarly looking sink marks in the suspension, the leaf spring part of the suspension there. So I don't know if I'm gonna be monkeying around with that, because it's like right there at the seam where this cast part meets the leaf springs, so that's gonna look kind of wonky. There's also a lot of flash going on there. Some flash on the muffler. Extra track links, and the extra track links have some ejector pin dimples, or little, instead of being sunk in, they're protruding, so those will be easy to clean off, so I'll actually be able to make that look halfway decent. The return rollers, again, there's flash going on right around there, so I'll have to do some cleanup. This seems to be the flashiest part, but oddly enough, the drive sprockets aren't too bad. Now the figures, keeping in mind that these figures are from 1970, they're actually not too bad. I mean, the detail's pretty decent on them. You got the commander, and then this chap here that I guess he sits in somewhere, sits on the front of the tank maybe, wherever he can find a place to sit. But they're not actually too bad. Now there's a little sink mark in the back of both of them. Those would be easy to fill in. I think I am going to paint these figures up just to see what I can do with them. But you can actually see the eagle insignia going on there. The insignia on his hat. Got an iron cross. I think that would probably be a tank badge or a wound badge or something. The piping is pretty crisp along their collars. So actually, for old figures, those are actually pretty decent. I mean, good grief, there's some more modern figures that look horrible compared to that. Not too shabby. So that's kind of cool. And then the last sprue are the road wheels, more track links, some hideous ejector pin marks, but those will be facing down. So just a little bit more cleanup on those little protruding parts. The rear plate, again, the detail, not too bad, pretty crisp considering. Pretty smooth plastic. Then you got the jack, very lowly detailed jack. There's not even a handle on it. And funny, the bolt cutters, whoops, actually have some halfway decent detail on them. Let me turn around. And then there's that weird light, glues front to back. So that, my friends, is that's all the sprues right there. Now, one thing I do remember from this kit, when I built them, any of the Panzer IVs that I built, the way that the idlers cemented onto the back plate, it basically just cements onto this part right here. And I remember the tracks were too short, and because of that, the tension was so great on the tracks that it actually, like, if that's forward facing on the vehicle, it pulled the idler wheels out like that, and it was just all wonky looking. So I'm not sure if it'll be the same in this. Hopefully this, these look like newer molded tracks, so hopefully they won't do the same thing. Hopefully they're long enough. As far as track sag goes for realism, probably not gonna happen, but we'll see. And then we have the decals. Let me zoom in a little bit here for you. Okay. Now the interesting thing about these these are new decals. They're copyright 2014. But kind of the neat thing about this is you have nice clean decals, and then you have optional weathered markings. Okay, these are all scuffed and scratched and imperfect, which would be nice, kind of pre-weathered for you, chipped up and scratched. So that's kind of cool, and I think those are the ones I'm going to use just for the interest factor, make it a little more interesting as I weather the tank. So as far as the decals themselves go, they look to be in register. The Balkenkreuz, they're perfectly lined up. Nothing weird going on that I can see. It may look different whenever I get them off the backing, but they look really good. and then these symbols on the shields are centered. So they look really good, and really thin carrier film. So in reading the ScaleMate's review on this, I think these were actually made in Italy, printed in Italy. So I don't know what brand that is, but you know, they look like really decent decals. So anyway, that is the Panzer IV by Monogram, and I'm going to get cracking on this, and I'm going to kind of do a step-by-step. It's going to be one of my beginner series videos, so hopefully any beginners out there that might be watching this or stumble across this, hopefully this will help whenever you need to look at different skills and ways of doing things. So anyway, that's it for the review of the Panzer IV by Monogram. Let me get cracking on this and see what I can do. So until next time, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and I'll catch you next time.